Hello and welcome to Ideagen TV. Today we have an amazing power panel led by Chaitra Vedullaplli, the co-founder of Women in Cloud and the co-founder and CMO of Meylah. Chaitra, welcome.
Thank you, John, for having me today. Really excited to be here. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone.
Great to have you here. And with that, I will pass it over for your amazing power panel.
Perfect, thank you. So first is, I would say we are really grateful to the Ideagen team, especially George, John, and Kristen for giving us the opportunity to advance the UN goals number 5, which is around the gender inclusion, goal number 9 around the innovation, and the goal number 17 around the public-private partnerships. And I just want to remind all of us, it was, can you believe, a year ago, our lives changed forever. So we went into lockdown, working from home, election to remember, 10 million jobs lost, 7 million people behind the rents, and the kind of crisis we are dealing as human that we have ever seen in the history. So, but with that, there's also, let me paint the picture of the current landscape that we are dealing with, which is constituting to a global crisis for women during the pandemic. So the first one is the lack of representation. 30 years ago, the computing women workforce was at 36%, but in 2019, the number has fallen to 27%. And this has created a significant gap of 8 million women in the tech force, where every business is actually becoming a digital business, but the women in the tech business and the ecosystem is declining at rapid pace. The second one is the lack of supplier diversity allocation. Today, only 3% of the corporate procurement dollars and 5% of federal contracts are going to women-owned firms. This situation is also exacerbated by the investors reducing the investment for the women tech founders, and it has come to like 2%. So it's no wonder that only 2% of the women-owned business are ever going to make $1 million in revenue, which is 3 times less than their male counterparts. So today I have 4 leading entrepreneurs in the tech industry who will help us guide to rethink and also reimagine the world where women can be equally represented in the Fortune 1000 companies and their supplier networks. This is our belief: if women and men are working together to double the supply diversity allocation in the Fortune 1000 companies, not just the spend, just the budget allocation, we will generate $1 billion in a revenue for women entrepreneurs. So this is the mission of Women in Cloud. So with that, I would love to welcome Lisa Brown, Kristen Miller, Ellen Feaheny, and Tiasia Bryan, who will be leading us in this discussion in a power panel today. So first, let me do a quick introduction of Tiasia O'Brien. She's the founder and head of strategy with Seam Social Labs, a company dedicated to community empowerment. I have Lisa Brown. She's the CRO of Pug Interactive, who's built a career around technology and methodology of customer engagement. As a CRO at Pug Interactive, a global provider of its gamified engagement solution that built an unbreakable relationship between the brands and their customer. She's also co-founder of Experium, a private and uncensored consumer platform for communication and organization. They have created the first experience framework technology that allows their users to communicate and manage all the components of the experiences they will enjoy, and for the business to support them inside those experiences. Now, I also want to welcome Kristen Miller. She's the CEO of Stylyze and a leader within the Women in Tech community, and also a board of member of the Beyond Project, as well as the advisor to the Women in Cloud ecosystem. And the last one is Ellen Feaheny. She's a longtime technologist in the area of integrated digital systems and distributed portal solution. She is the CEO and co-founder of Aloha Digital Network, a firm hell-bent on making a big cloudy world of digital transformation a whole lot easier. Their specialty in deploying a network of network communities on a holistic, extensive platform that can grow and grow measurable impact for the companies and organization that understands the power of their distributed network. While modern technologies is just the vehicle, it is also important one strategically for all those growth efforts beyond. Since COVID time, the AlohaCloud has done hard work with like-minded folks. With that, ladies, I want to welcome you to the Ideagen platform, and we are really excited to have you. So I would like to start with all of you is to just go ahead and just tell us a little bit more of who you are and what gets you excited to get out of the bed and what UN goal you are influencing. So Lisa, I'll start with you first.
Oh, thank you, Chaitra. And, just to add to the great introduction that you had for me earlier, thank you for that. I think what is important to me, what I fight for when I wake up every day is fighting for the world I want to live in. I believe in following my heart and charting my own course to do that, standing up for what I believe in. And, in that I'm probably more of a rule breaker than a rule follower, but I think we need to be able to, again, follow our hearts to be able to create the kind of world that we want to be in. As far as my UN goal, I really have 4 of them that I highly identify with. But for me, the most is gender equality. It's probably at the top of the list because I want to live in a world without labels, and not just gender labels, but actually all labels, because at our core, we're all the same and we're all here for the same end purpose.
I totally agree. Lisa, also tell me more about what is the topic that you can passionately talk about without preparation?
I would say it's engagement, which is actually kind of funny coming from an introvert. But it makes bringing people together in meaningful, healthy, and productive ways even more important for me. For me, it's all about the quality of connections and not the quantity.
I completely hear you, is especially living in this world without labels is a fantastic idea. Going to Kristen, what about you, Kristen? What gets you out of bed and what goal, a UN goal that you are influencing? And what's the topic that you can talk without any preparation?
Thank you so much, Chaitra. Well, what literally gets me out of bed is my 2-year-old son, but what gets me excited to start my day is when I have a day in front of me where I'm very focused on driving innovation and transformation, and that can be through a variety of client partnerships that I'm working on. So Stylyze is a software as a service platform, and we serve the enterprise retail vertical. So as you know, this has been an interesting time for retail. So having the opportunity to innovate and transform alongside large enterprises, also opportunities to write, to speak, really to share some positivity with the world right now, I think is just wonderful and exciting. And in terms of what I could talk about for 20 minutes, it would be raising capital. So I think, for female founders, our 2 Achilles heels are often raising capital and closing enterprise contracts. And both of those Achilles heels I have been shackled by and also healed from and overcome to some extent. And so the more that I can do to share both my successes and my failures and help others learn from them, the better.
Thanks, Kristen. You have been a fantastic advocate, ambassador for Women Cloud, and I can tell you raising capital is not an easy task. It's one of the toughest thing for women, and we'll dig deep into that topic very soon. Ellen, what about you? What gets you out of bed?
Thanks so much, Chaitra, and glad to be here. What gets me out of bed is usually the problems of my customers. And at any given time, it can be a different type of challenge, but there is common thread with them all. For example, all of them are dealing with the challenge of the digital divide, if I can use that coin term, where just they want to do really simple things and they can't do it because the systems are too complicated, or they have 16 of them, or they also have a distributed network and they can't communicate between all their different channels and their people. And so that's a challenge. But with COVID, that challenge got even more extreme. And the other thing too is learning about the SDG goals and also the different, and refocusing my lens on different types of purpose or mission-like agendas has been an amazing experience for me. For example, right now I'm working on a platform for restorative social justice in the criminal justice and division, and that area is very digital divide is an understatement. There's a network that is unsupported at the technology level. There's a network and divides that are between administration and government and families that are incarcerated or people that are getting out of incarcerated. And so this is a really big problem. The UN has also tons of these types of big problems where the haves and the have-nots are extreme. And how do you bring them together in a digital fashion? So that's what's getting me out of bed lately.
Thank you, Ellen. Tiasia, going to you. What gets you out of bed? What's the UN goal that you are passionate about influencing? And what is the topic you can talk for 20 minutes?
Cool. So hi, everyone. I'll actually start with my UN goals. There are 2 key UN goals we are committed to, and it's reduced inequalities and sustainable cities and communities. Our enterprise solution actually tackles both of those, and that solution is called Consensus. Every day when I wake up, I am automatically thinking about people, families, women, everyone who should have an access and a right to be civically engaged in their community and to have an active part in conversations that for solutions that impact them. So I'm always thinking about how do we troubleshoot around that? How do we create an opportunity for more diverse stakeholder engagement, whether it's between a corporation and a community, or between employees and their company, or constituents and their government agencies. And that's also the topic that I love talking about, especially when it comes to people's voices. My background is actually as an urban sociologist. So our product is focused on qualitative data, and the idea of qualitative data, the ability to take it and transform it into insights, is something that I love discussing. And it's a little mantra that we have on our team that we call data by the people for the people. And I always love talking about that.
I love it, Taisha. So we'll go all of us can go deeper into the topic. And today we'll actually focus a lot of our conversation around access, and starting from customer market to funding to the network, which allows the women to really successfully build enterprise business. And each of you are very powerful entrepreneurs. So I'll start with Kristen and Lisa. Is when it comes to access to customer market, winning an enterprise customer takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of barriers that you have to go through. What are the rituals and tactics have you implemented in your business to really advance the growth, and actually a double-digit growth, even in the midst of pandemic? You have really worked very hard to work on it. Can you share some rituals and tactics? So let's start with you, Lisa.
Okay, there we go. Excellent. Well, I mean, sales is filled with process, and we do spend a lot of time working through that process, trying to move the sales forward. But I think for me, where I focus most of my energy and activity is in the building of relationships. And I know it goes without saying that you have to have strong relationships to move your to move your deals forward. But at the end of the day, it really is people buy more often from people that they like and people that they develop some kind of a bond with. So finding, for me, the biggest part of my process is finding authentic connection points. And that is so critical. You know, I will work hard to find what drives my customer, both personally and professionally, so I can invest emotionally in their outcome. And that drives me to do what's best for them and their company. And in the end, that's what brings me the greatest success. So most of my process is built around aligning their needs with my technology and spending an inordinate amount of time doing that to make sure that we are completely aligned. Because at the end of the day, and I have not had a problem with turning my customers down. So we always think that, you know, your customers will tell you, no, you're not a good fit for us, but sometimes our customers are not a good fit for us. because I see my customers beyond the sale and that long-term value. So in aligning myself fully with their needs, I will make sure that I've very, very clearly mapped out what their priorities, their requirements are, what their end business goals are, and make sure that I am capable through my own skill and through my company's technology to make sure they achieve what they're looking to achieve.
I totally agree, Lisa. Like, building a relationship is such a crucial, I would say, component of winning the enterprise opportunities. What about you, Lisa?
Yeah, so I think really understanding how to go to market in a strategic way to accelerate the sales cycle is critical for entrepreneurs. You know, we're these tiny little companies and we're trying to sell to large enterprises that frankly can just wait us out. You know, they have the runway to wait 18 months to get a deal closed. A lot of times we don't. And so really thinking about go-to-market strategies, such as, are there channels that I can plug into, like the Azure Marketplace? Are there perhaps advisors or board members or investors that I can recruit who will come in and open those doors for me? And as Lisa said, you know, relationships are everything, but how do you start the conversation with the right people? And it does often come down to the people that will sponsor you and be willing to open those doors and facilitate a process. And I think another aspect to the sales cycle that we don't talk a lot about as entrepreneurs is just the legal burden. So choosing the right legal counsel for your team and understanding how to use them so that it, you know, the process and the expense doesn't take you down literally is really critical. And so I think, you know, building those frameworks for go to market, how to get into the right conversations, and then how to manage that process both through relationships and then just getting through the legal cycle is critical to success.
Sure, Kristen, I agree with you on that, especially around the legal burden. Is when you are really working in the enterprise market, I think that each of the contract is like 20 to 30 pages long, and having the right legal counsel is it's a blessing. I will actually go into the access to funding, and Kristen, I'll actually start with you because your expertise is to really talk about that one. Is we know that less than 2% of the venture funding is going to women tech founders. What do you think is the real cause, and how are you getting access to the funding, even when there are so many barriers?
Yeah, so I think if we take the bias aside, so that, you know, that's a real issue and we know that, but if we take that and we set it to the side, I think there's three key issues that as female founders we need to overcome and the community needs to help us overcome. The first is just education to understand the investment landscape. You know, there's several different types of investors. There's angel investment, VC, private equity, there's debt. A lot of new founders and first-time founders just don't understand that landscape. They don't know how to think about what is the right fit for me in terms of capital, and how do those businesses work? What motivates them? What drives them? How do I sell into them? The second piece of that is, of course, access. You know, just like any other business that we're talking about, investors are totally relationship-based, and cold calling them can get you somewhere, but it's obviously a lot better if you have a warm introduction. And also if you can identify who the right first investor or lead investor is, because then the rest will follow. And I think the third piece is just preparation for that meeting when you get it. And it's not just about having the perfect deck. A lot of it is also just understanding, again, you know, what are the levers and the metrics that this specific type of investor and this specific investor is looking for? How do I position my business in such a way that it's, you know, aligned with those, and I know that I'm hitting, I'm kind of checking the boxes for them, because I'm competing, you know, with who knows how many other companies for those dollars. So I think the more that we as a community can come alongside female founders and provide access, and then kind of those 2 points of education, the more that we will be able to move the needle and hopefully really get more share of wallet from investors.
So true, so true. And Ellen, Tiasia, both of you are fundraising right now. So I'll start with you, Tiasia. What are you seeing the real cause, and how are you getting ahead of it, breaking all the barriers?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely about the access. So who do I need to know? How do I get those warm introductions? My background is not in technology, even though I'm a founder. So this was a very new landscape. So it took a while to kind of address that, understand, strategies that can really work for you. Right now, I think one of the most important things we have is current investors from our pre-seed round, a board and advisors, and also mentors who just kind of can make the right connections for us and who I can share ideas with. That way that when I have a potential lead, when I'm trying to push for a close, they can give me real world experience on how to make that happen. And that's what's been critical and most successful for a lot of other founders, but even taking me to that next level as well.
So well said. So well said. What about you, Ellen?
For me, it's been learning the whole fundraising world. You have these preconceived ideas that you read blogs or see different things that are out there, and you get these assumptions through podcasts, whatever, and you fall into a box, a different kind of box than maybe your corporate or organizational box. And I think over time, I started realizing I needed to also pull myself out of that box. I am an obsessive, voracious reader. I obsess also on latest and greatest current events on Twitter and Audibles, and I've decided, especially since COVID, to really challenge my mind to constantly think outside of my box, and to try to also target specific investors that I felt met the criteria that I needed them to. So now, why would they talk to me though? Bottom line is, again, challenge myself, get out of my box. It's not about me, it's about them. How can I help them? How can I give first? How can I get their attention in a way that's not direct, hey, here I am. And I think that has started to work. I'm starting to get people that I am really targeting, and they are very let's say high profile people, and they're starting to pay attention because I'm helping them first.
I agree with you, Ellen. It's like helping people and getting them through the journey actually gets you to have those really good, warm relationships with people who, again, will unlock doors for you. So, Lisa, what about you?
Well, I personally haven't been involved in any specific funding activities. Well, I have. It's been quite a while, and my experiences weren't actually positive ones. So in this, in this latest sort of incarnation of my founder's experience, I have stayed away from it. There will come a time when I'll need to jump back into it. But I will make sure, certainly the feedback that I hear from people like Kristen, which is, I think, very, very valuable, and we'll make sure that I have all my ducks in a row, and I've spoken with a lot of people, and I understand exactly what it is I'm trying to get out of it, because I think it's very, very easy to make mistakes when you don't understand what the end goal is, and you don't understand what all of the pitfalls can be in terms of going through that experience. There's so much more that you can gain, but knowledge is everything, to Ellen's point as well, and understanding exactly what it is that you're dealing with is so critically important, because it's very, very difficult to go back on decisions that you've made when it comes to that environment.
So well said, so well said. Whether you are in the midst of fundraising or you're not, you still have to kind of go through significant preparation and education to get there. Each one of you talked about relationships, and access to network has been one of the most challenging for a lot of women, because those networks are closed. But each one of you have actually done a fantastic job in advancing your opportunities and also building your own networks. So tell us more about what type of networks are working to advance access to opportunities, and what does true success look like for you? So Ellen, I'll start with you.
I think, thanks. I think COVID has really brought some clarity for me on this. COVID, March 13th, all the CIOs and CFOs closed their doors, and the enterprise market was kind of effectively closed for a bit. And it was like, okay, are you going to just cry about it or just do the same old that you've done in the past? That's really not going to work. And you really don't have that kind of 18-month runway to just twiddle your thumbs. Instead, you have to, again, research, do strategy, and understand what they are about. And then I also closed my website door and I said, I'm going to do the picking on who's talking to me, not people, all the randoms picking me. Because I was wasting a ton of time on, let's say, low-hanging fruit that really wasn't properly vetted. And once I took control and took the reins to target these different folks or people that had problems that I could see, it was very visible out on the web through my research. And once I started taking the reins and targeted them, I always got responses. It was really quick. And so that's the bottom line. You don't have to you have to think out of the box. You have to think how, and what's the art of the possibility, and also be fast. Speed is everything.
Absolutely. Lisa, what about you?
Well, this has actually been a very positive eye-opener for me, because in my past corporate life, working for large organizations, and maybe it's a factor of being in sales, but coming into Women in Cloud, and thank you, Chaitra, I was in the accelerator and had a tremendous amount of value from that. What I learned from Women in Cloud and from the wonderful organization, that network that Chaitra's created, is that the people coming into that organization are coming there for the same reason. Unlike past experience coming from the corporate world, where the expectation that I had, and from the encounters and the experiences that I had, is that it was very much closed, like what can I get out of this? But coming into Women in Cloud, it's not only what am I going to get out of this, but as importantly, or more importantly, what can I give back? What can I put into it? So the networking for me has changed substantially. And it's not only nourished me from a business point of view, but from a personal point of view. So it's opened up my eyes to the value of what that is, what it means for me, and what it can do for business in general, and how it can advance everybody in the entrepreneurial world. Because being an entrepreneur, as we know, is a very scary thing to do. There's a lot of risk, and you're really putting yourself out there. So Women in Cloud and organizations like that can be very, very beneficial for those people that are unsure whether or not they have the skill, they have the wherewithal and the stamina to be able to do it. Now, how do I view success? That's a good question, because I actually have thought a lot about this recently. And for me, at the end of the day, success is simply being happy in the moment with whatever circumstance I find myself in. And that's taken a lot of personal growth to come to that point.
So Lisa, getting to that state, I call it as a monk state, is a skill, and it takes a lot of effort. So, each one of you are doing so brilliantly. Lisa, Kristen, Tiasia, do you have anything to add in access to networks?
Yeah, so I think for me, when I founded Stylyze is my fourth company, but my first technology company, and I'd also never raised capital before. And so I needed to figure out how to get through a very steep learning curve very quickly and not be afraid to ask for help. And so what I did was I started identifying people who had been there and done that, who had whatever it was I was trying to do, get into the retail industry, who's in the retail industry, who's, C-level, who has all this experience. Can I engage with them maybe formally as an advisor, one of my advisors, as a board member, or even just as a mentor, and have, like Lisa said, there's got to be a give-gets relationship there. It is about building a relationship. But I learned that the what's in it for them, if they're the right people, is often people that have been very successful in their careers are looking for opportunities to give back, particularly when there's someone who's teachable, someone who's willing to learn. So showing up and saying, hey, I'm willing to learn, I need help. I've had the amazing privilege of being mentored by, the ex-CFO of Nordstrom and the lead CNBC contributor and Chaitra and the Women in Cloud Network. And it's been such a surprising joy. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about Women in Cloud and really looking for opportunities to give back, because so many people have given so generously to my journey, and I'm just so grateful for that.
Thank you, Kristen. Tiasia, anything to add?
Yeah, I think especially for the work that we do enterprise, and a lot of it is also with government agencies. And so it's looking beyond the company, the agency, and realizing that there's humans behind that. So a lot of my priority, a lot of my sales team priority is dedicated to who's the person behind this? How can I engage with them and just be honest and real and develop a rapport with them? So we are offline talking about anything. And that way, when it comes to building that network, that conversation, they are not only bought into what we do and what our enterprise solution does, but they're an advocate and an ambassador for us. And that helps us expand the brand and continue to grow and scale. And so those deep-seated relationships have been critical.
Yeah, so here is something that was an aha moment. The reason why each one of you are influential and one of the most powerful entrepreneurs are a couple of things. Each of you are very coachable, absolutely coachable, because I had an opportunity to work with you. Second, you actually put relationships first as your game plan and really ensure that you take care of people through the journey. And very focused, extremely focused on your goals. And the last one is preparation, not only just the work, but also preparing yourself to navigate. So that's the formula that each one of you have. So now what I would love all of you to do is make it a little bit more actionable. Is what are the resources for other entrepreneurs that you can recommend as they advance their journey into enterprise? And I would love, Kristen, you can start, and then Ellen, Tiasia, and Lisa, you can add more to it.
Yeah, so I think in terms of resources, it takes a village. Being an entrepreneur is a really tough journey. And if it's a lonely journey, it's going to be difficult to succeed and also enjoy the journey along the way. So figuring out, who's in the village with you, identifying an accelerator like Women in Cloud, or a similar program that gives you the scaffolding and the support that you need. And then again, we've talked about people a lot, but looking for, it's not just about raising money. It's about, okay, what investors can I target that can accelerate my journey in ways other than capital? I'm going to build an advisory board who can come alongside me and accelerate the growth, of the business. And so I think finding formal programs in addition to just finding the right people to surround yourself with is really critical.
So well said. Tiasia.
Yeah, team. So I took a long time to kind of build out my team, prioritize customer discovery first. But once I was ready and once our solution was ready to launch, I really dedicated and focused on the team aspect and nurturing my team as much as I build with those relationships with our customers and nurture them as well. Our team are ambassadors, advocates, and so proud of the work that we do and the social impact that we have. So that priority moving forward is just going to be number one. And it's always going to end up supporting and helping us grow our business, but also making sure that we are helping and supporting our customers so they can have an impact as well.
Sure. Ellen, Lisa, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, so what I would say is probably a really important thing is Malcolm Gladwell has a book called Blink, and it says everyone makes their judgment in the first 10 seconds. And what's important, I think, in the entrepreneur journey is that you may have a judgment like anyone, but you should not hold a judgment. If anyone's ever, anyone that's a CEO or an entrepreneur or a founder that's had to start their own company, they have to, it's a brutally humbling experience at times. And it's sales at its best. And the things that you want and the things that you think are going to be huge aren't. And the things that you ignore sometimes come back. And not prejudging the network, not prejudging the people, not prejudging the fellow people we're working with. That's everything, because that is how things come back and when you least expect it. There's that other saying about you can't connect the dots except if you look back. And that doesn't happen always immediate. It can take months, it can take weeks, it can take years. But there is something in that that happens that brings out the possibility for something else. So anyway, I digress.
Thank you.
And I'm glad to actually follow Ellen there, because I think the sort of the foundation of what I wanted to say, she's saying. It sounds counterintuitive, but
Yeah.
I work really, really hard not to put any weight in the outcome. And for the exact reason that Ellen said, sometimes you don't see the end state until you're past it, until you get there and you've passed it. And things may happen. You may be pushed down a different direction, and you might not see the benefit or the value of it until until you get there. And you may think, okay, well, that didn't work out. I made a judgment. The judgment was that wasn't good for me. That person wasn't good for me. But then all of a sudden you realize, well, that wasn't the case. All roads lead you to an end point, and it's very easy to have 20/20 vision and look backwards. But I find for me that if I don't put weight in the outcome, and I assume that everything is leading me towards my end goal, whether or not in the moment it doesn't necessarily feel positive, it does reduce a lot of the stress. That, and from a network point of view, is really finding appreciation in every connection that you make, because again, they all have good aspects to them no matter what, even if, again, you don't feel it in the moment. So for me, gratitude is what has brought out the most in relationships with people, and it's helped me nurture, and it becomes more of like a Trojan horse kind of environment. You never know what you're going to get from a relationship, and that one relationship could open 20 different doors. And I've seen it happen, and it's an amazing feeling when it does.
Absolutely. This was a philosophy that, I grew up with, and I think you're validating it. The philosophy was you should always know what the goal is, but not really get married to the outcome only, but really go through the effort. Like, did you put in the right effort? Are you coachable? Are you focused? And things will all come together. And you have validated that philosophy. I think each one of you have validated. And I wish more and more, we can embrace that philosophy, saying, put in the effort and you will see the magic at the end of the tunnel, right? So here we are at the tail end of our interview, and each of you have done such a great job. I wanted all of you to kind of give advice to the Ideagen and the Women in Cloud communities. How else and what other ways can we help advance more access for female tech founders? So I'll start with Tiasia.
Yeah, so I think the Women in the Cloud program does a fantastic job of connecting us to social capital mentors, but also getting a lay of the land when it comes to building out a company focused on enterprise. I will say any resources or opportunities or partnership, mentorship connections for women getting into technology and not just dedicated to being an engineer, but also working in sales, HR, recruiting would be fantastic. So that's one idea. A second one is 4% of technologists are women of color. So really opening up opportunities to ensure that your company feels inclusive, has an open door. A huge part of what makes me really happy about the work that we do at Seam Social Labs and with our product is we're building out a team that is completely open and kind of, you come in as you are, whatever your culture, your personality is, and we want you to represent whoever you are. And so I think having more open doors to ensure that can exist at other corporations, at other companies is great, because it opens the door for more women of color to be an active member and to have a seat at the table at these companies.
Thank you, Tiasia. Kristen.
Yeah, so I realized I didn't at the beginning state which UN initiative I'm most involved with, and it is number 5, as we've been discussing the issues with gender equality. And I think Ideagen and Women in Cloud are doing so much. As we've discussed, there's just the network access, the educational component, because all things being equal, if we're competing for dollars, be it with an investor or with an enterprise contract, for better or worse, we have to be a little bit better than the competition. And that will be the case until we can really shift the stats further to a place of equality. Having said that, and Chaitra, we've talked about this a few times, I think it would be really interesting to take the Cloud Accelerator concept and offer something at different stages of growth for various businesses, and also possibly looping in that investor ecosystem, or just capital ecosystem, let's say. It doesn't have to be through that vehicle, to not only help the female entrepreneur kind of jumpstart and get started, but then to nurture success, all the way through the life cycle of the business.
So well said, Kristen. Ellen?
When I met Chaitra last year, she referred me into an organization, or it's actually a guy. His name is Akhtar Badshah, and he released a book in November called Purpose Mindset. And this has been kind of a real life-changing experience for me, and helping me refocus on why we do what we do, and that tech's a vehicle, not the solution. I mean, yes, without the tech, it's the solution. But you need to have a reason, and your reason should be a little bit deeper than skin deep. I think there's a ton of people in the Women in Cloud group, as well as the Ideagen group, who actually are focusing on different types of purpose. And I would love it if we could all work together to maybe do a weekly or monthly running events, maybe like a podcast or video cast or something like that gets scheduled, that's kind of low effort to pull together with technology as a vehicle, but also can drive a lot more noise to the movement. I think there's a lot of unsung heroes in the Women in Cloud group that I'm discovering. And once I discover them, I'm like, how come I don't know about you? And I feel like we need to have, you're kind of doing it already. It's the collective purpose, the collective power, and bringing it together and doing this more with that.
Thank you, Ellen. And Lisa?
I think for me, and I've been doing a little bit of this of myself with some of the people in our cohort, but it's really truly embracing the we all win together. And I've had a few sessions offline with individuals that have sort of walked me through challenges that they're having in the area of sales, which is my background, and been able to help them, and then sharing some of the challenges that I'm having. And it's just opening up each of our individual beliefs and thoughts and ideas, what we're going through, emotional aspect, technology, everything, and basically being our own advisors to each other on the same level. Because you can have advisors that have been in the business forever and they're very skilled in certain areas, and you can learn from them. But I think we can learn from each other even at the same stage, because we are seeing the world a certain way. We're seeing our business a certain way. And I think there really, there are no individuals out there that we can't learn from. And I think spending more time where we're dedicating our own individual time to each other and learning from each other can be very, very beneficial. And I plan on doing more of that.
So well said. Yes, we are all, we all have to win together, and that's what a collective power can do. And as a Women in Cloud and Ideagen, we do have that belief system. And I would say thank you all for enlightening us, and also being such a powerful and influential leaders and entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. Let me summarize what I actually learned through this one is being coachable, be coachable, even in the midst of, a conversation, be there to learn from each other, because that's what makes you a better person. Second is really from an Ideagen and WIC community, creating more access, which is social capital access through warm introduction, and also helping each of you to grow significantly through the pipe, right? So whatever we are doing, it's adding to the work. And the last one, which I personally feel is you helped us really help me rethink and reimagine that we can totally make the women equally represented in the Fortune 1000 supplier networks. And if we women and men can work together to just double the supplier diversity allocation in the Fortune 1000 companies, not just the spend, just the budget allocation, we actually can generate $1 billion in revenue for women entrepreneurs. And it's not a whole lot of work. It's very simple. It's just a mindset shift, a little bit of removal of bias, and believing that women entrepreneurs can do. So again, thank you to all of you for being here. So for the listeners, there are 3 things that Women in Cloud provides opportunity for you, and I want to take you through those opportunities if you're interested to engage. We are a community-led and economic development organization really focused on advancing female tech founders in the Fortune 1000 companies and ecosystem in partnership with them, and also the policymakers. The first thing that we do is have access to job opportunities. If you're looking for a job and you're thinking about it, all the women-led companies and our network is actually making the job accessible for you. So if you're looking for it, please make sure you come and join, build relationship, and see how you can advance your careers. Second is, if you're thinking about building as an entrepreneur, building and a solution or winning an enterprise opportunity, I would love all of you to consider joining the VIC Cloud Accelerator, which can help you co-sell and co-market with Microsoft and really help you get through that one. The preparation is so crucial for winning an enterprise opportunity. And the last one we all talk about is seeking those professional growth and connection and having that warm introduction. We have signature events, which Women in Cloud and Ideagen does. Please just join us. And if you really want to connect with us, you can go to womenincloud.com or join our digital network, and we welcome all of you. Again, thank you, ladies, for doing a fantastic and fabulous job. We are very excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chaitra. Thank you, Ideagen.